good.
We're good. All right, we've started recording. Okay, welcome to the first ever episode of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Me and my guy Evan Byrne are excited to bring you all the Bucks action from the whole season. It's been a long summer, Evan.
It has.
It's been a really long, grueling summer, but you know what? Couple weeks, the NBA is coming back.
We're back.
We are back. Okay, we're back in the thick of things. Last time you saw our Milwaukee Bucks, but before we get into that,
Yeah.
Evan, in your eyes, how did this podcast start?
You had posted about it, and you wanted to do a sports one.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple years ago, I remember the Bucks season was about to start, maybe like 2018, 2019. I thought of wanting to do a podcast, but I don't know what to do. And you messaged that. I was like, let's see if we can make this work or not. And here we are a couple months later. We're in it. We're ready. Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, and me and you have always had that. So to kind of backtrack here, me and you met because one of our friends, Alex Menzel, invited me and a few of the guys to a Brewers game, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I met you.
Yep.
And I hadn't really talked to you in college, but I think we always kind of had that connection to being just massively huge Bucks fans.
Yep. Through sports, we just kind of something big would happen, and we would kind of
we would always talk about it. I think last year I asked you a question where it's do you even watch the games where Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday aren't playing?
Mm-hmm. I always will, because I like to watch those backup guys.
Yeah, you love to watch Sandro and Thanasis.
Yep. They're hard to watch, but I'll watch most of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we always had that connection, and one of those things where it's I thought about starting a podcast, but I didn't know what I wanted my podcast to. I didn't know what my avenue was going to be. I didn't know if I wanted to do all sports, if I wanted to do one specific sport or one sports team. So yeah, I mean, look, this podcast just kind of came together. Took about a month or two of planning.
Yeah.
But look, we're here. We're excited. And look, there's been a lot that happened this offseason. But let's start with the first thing. Jordan Noah is now officially on the Bucks.
Yep. Signed a 2-year.
After being a restricted free agent for most of the summer, really. So how do you
it wasn't until the end.
Yeah, so how do you think he's going to fit into the Bucks regular season rotation?
I would assume he's going to be one of the 8th or 9th guys off the bench or in the second rotation. I kind of see him being someone who's going to step up. I think he knows his role a lot more. I know a couple of weeks ago, he had an interview where he said he knew the role that he's going into and he himself needs to step up a little more. So I know last year, career-wise, he averaged about 8 or so points. I think he could bump that up, maybe 11, 12 off the bench, maybe shoot 38 to 40 from 3, kind of get comfortable as the season goes. But I think he understands what he needs to do overall as a player, and I think he's going to fit in well. I think that was a good signing.
I agree with you there. But from a distance, it felt like last year, whenever he got his minutes, I don't think he necessarily knew what his role was.
No, and I think that's where he's going to, come around. I hope he's going to come around. He had games where he'll drop 20 or so points, or he'll come in and turn the ball over 5 times. And it's one of those where hopefully he can step up and kind of fit that role. But yeah, I 100% agree. It was a cheaper contract, so it wasn't too expensive, but hopefully going to the next season, he can kind of understand where he's going to fit in when he gets on the court.
No, I agree with you there. And a lot of Bucks fans, I don't really notice stuff like this. Maybe I should, but there was a lot of Bucks fans who thought he didn't take defense as seriously as he should have. Do you kind of hold that opinion?
I can see where they're coming from. Again, you have games where it's either he's not on his man or he's somewhere where he shouldn't be. But I think that'll kind of breeze past, I hope, I don't see it happening a lot. It's going to
Mhm.
happen here or there, but I think he can kind of get over that hunch now that he is hoping to get a more rotation start. I think he'll kind of have to get used to it or just kind of getting comfortable more on the court. But I think he'll get over that little bridge, that struggle for his.
Yeah, I hope he does because the thing is, especially for a young player, really outside of Dante DiVincenzo, it is extremely hard for a young player to kind of make an impact for Coach Mike Budenholzer because his
Mhm.
rotations, and a lot of Bucks fans have kind of brought this up where it's like he can be kind of stubborn with his rotations.
Yep, with younger
Um,
guys.
but he doesn't really like to play younger guys unless he has to.
Mhm.
Like the core guys are always going to play like Brook Lopez and Chris
Yeah.
Middleton, Drew Holiday, Giannis, and the backup guys now even those established guys such as Pat Connaughton,
Mhm.
Wesley Matthews, Grayson Allen. I think that's where it gets like I think Nora's going to play. I don't know if he's going to play more or less games than last year. I'd say I'd go with like maybe a few games more
Mhm. I would agree.
because I think he's ready to make an impact. I think John Horst wanted him back, and for a specific reason because I think he can help stretch the floor. If guys are collapsing in on Giannis, then I think he can make some impact plays.
I would agree, and I think again the young guys. He's so used to playing the veterans or the guys who kind of know what they're doing out there. Where you have these guys on the bench where can make an impact, but it's one of those things where if you have to impress them. But I think John Horst wanting him back means that he is an asset to the team. I think John Horst understands or he knows the guys that he needs to keep or the guys he needs to get in order to continue that championship run. So again, trust him with the decision. I think he made a good choice. But again, it's one of those things where if he knows that he's going to help, then he should be here on the team in the rotation, getting ready for the season.
Yep. All right, moving on to what we're going to talk about next. Chris Middleton is unfortunately going to miss. So I was kind of confused by this. So he's going to miss the start of the season,
Yep.
or he's at least missing opening night. But they made it sound like he was missing the start of the season. And
Yeah,
right,
I heard a few games
a
is what
few games.
yep.
Yeah. So he had wrist surgery in the off season. It sounds like Jesus, it's been so long ago. What did he hurt? What did he hurt again against the Bulls? Was it a
I know the Bulls was the MCL.
MCL? Okay. All
Hurt
right.
his leg in game 2,
All
and
right.
then yeah, obviously was out for the playoffs. But yeah, it was the wrist that he got surgery on, and yeah, they said he'll miss a few games, which is kind of a critical start just
Mm,
because you have the 76ers and the Nets. Then you have the Rockets and the Knicks later on, and kind of the Hawks too. But the 76ers game opening night, I think is going to be big. You got to get those guys, Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, maybe Wesley to kind of step up with that
yeah.
three-pointer role.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it sucks, but
It
hopefully
does.
he comes back healthy and kind of comes back that Chris Middleton that we know, just because of the leg injury and not playing any kind of basketball until whenever he gets back on the court. So fingers crossed on that. But we got to rely on our other guys to, again, step up and fill in that role, being able to hit the threes that he can,
Hmm.
pull it from twos, just kind of being able to average out what he would typically do in those first few games that he's out.
Yeah, and I think he said he suffered it right after the All Star break.
Yep.
Um, again, it's athletes are just something else because like I didn't even notice that he had a wrist injury. Um, I don't even know if any Bucks fan really picked up that he had a wrist injury. I guess his numbers dropped a little bit. I'm not sure. Like he didn't have like once in a while. I'm not saying Chris Middleton puts together a bunch of dominating
Mm.
performances, but like it's like once in a blue moon where he'll like just go off like he did in the
Yep.
playoffs
Shot
last
40
year.
points.
Yeah, so I guess it. I guess he dropped off just a little bit. Um, I don't even know what a drop off for Chris Middleton is exactly.
Yeah, because it wasn't a substantial amount. He wasn't dropping like 5, 6 points a
No,
game. It was a couple. It's one of those things where if it's not bothering him and he can continue to play, then he's going to play. But it's one of those things where you fix when you're not playing. A lot of the guys do it when you got the finger injuries or like the foot injuries. ankles, all that kind of stuff. So I can get why he did it. I'm just kind of surprised at how late he did it. It was kind of weird in like the
Yeah.
middle of August or so that he was getting surgery and is going to be out. Um, but again, something minor. I think that'll be a good bounce back.
Who knows? Maybe he thought I could play through it.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he was doing like a Scottie Pippen thing where it's like I'm not going to mess my summer up here. I'm just going
Hmm.
to like get surgery and screw my team over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think because I don't exactly know how serious Milwaukee takes the beginning of the season because you'll see so many guys on there that'll only play for the Bucks for like 5 games or something like
Yep.
that before they cut them. So like the regular season, like obviously the start of the regular season is somewhat important because you kind of want to see what your team is at.
Yeah, a lot of it is setting the tone. I think starting in Philadelphia to
Mhm.
start the season with the competition that they have between the two, I think the winner of that game is going to set the tone for the entire season series.
Yeah.
And even if they meet in the playoffs, but I think Chris Middleton or not, I think the Bucks are still able to pull off games without him to start.
Mhm.
Again, they took him to 7 with the Celtics without him, and again, the only downfall was their shooting from 3.
Yeah.
So I think if that can somehow bounce back, then I don't really see an issue of them going like 0 for 4 to start the
Mhm.
season because it's not going to happen with him or not. So
Yeah.
I don't see a big downfall, but again, those 76ers and Nets games, if he's out by then I think that'll be a big one to start again, just for playoff intensity down the road.
Yeah, and injuries, especially like as you as you're kind of getting to the weeds of the regular season, are bound to happen. I don't think. I think in 5 years, I don't think there's going to be a Bucks fan who remembers DeMarcus Cousins being on the Bucks.
Yeah.
Um, I watched a few games with DeMarcus Cousins. It wasn't pretty. I mean,
Yeah, a lot of people were like crying that they dumped him, but in the long run, he wasn't their starting center. It wasn't out of the blue again. It was just one of those things where it wasn't going to fit the cut in the long run. They're not going to keep him
no.
for the next year, so you're not going to spend money on him when he's just going to be gone. Again, it happens with all sports, but he's already bounced around teams at the end of his career. So sure, he was doing well at that point, but again,
I mean,
it's nothing crazy.
the biggest highlight was like when, he'd be on the floor for 10 minutes and like
He'll hit a
that.
three.
No, not like that, but like he'd be on the floor for 10 minutes and then he's jogging up and down the floor. I'm like, "Where's DeMarcus? Oh, he's not. Oh, he's not on the other
He's
end of.
coming.
He's coming. He's not on the
Yeah.
other." That's why I knew. I was like, Coach Bud's probably gonna take him out.
Hmm.
He's exhausted. He he was exhausted.
Yeah, it
All
was a
right,
good pickup when they had him, but it's one of those it is what it is moments.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Never forget they also got Greg Monroe back too.
Yep. I love
Never
Greg
forget.
Monroe though.
Look, I love Greg Monroe. Um, all right, let's talk about some of the free agent signings that the Bucks picked up this summer.
Joe Ingles
Joe Ingles,
is the sleeper pick of the summer, I think,
yes,
in the
he is.
entire NBA. And so many people say things about it when they post about him or the Bucks will post like Joe Ingles like at practice, but every guy on the Bucks that they've interviewed said how much they hated playing against him because how intense he was defense wise, and then he'll sling around like 6 or 7 threes a game, or he will just when he's on fire, he'll keep going. It's one of those things where if he's hot, and he'll hit 4 or 5 a game. But the intensity I think he brings, the vet standpoint, he has playoff experience, obviously not very far,
Yeah,
but he understands the game. And I think it's one of those PJ Tucker kind of pickups where you got
yeah,
the small shooter defensive wise, and I think coming off the bench and being healthy, because I know he tore his ACL last year, so he's not going to
yeah.
be like right at the start. But I think he's going to be a huge X factor for the Bucks in the long run, especially into the playoffs. Very underrated pickup, I think, over the summer.
Yeah, and I agree with you there because Joe Ingles is one of those guys that you watch him and you're like, oh, he's not gonna do anything,
Yep.
and all of a sudden he's just sitting there in the corner and just drawing threes in your face, and I'm like,
And he's a lefty too.
You letting this guy go off against you? Really?
Yep.
Like,
Old Joe Ingles.
showing. Um, not a lot of athleticism there. Slow
No,
mo
but
Joe. That's what they
that
call it.
slow catch and shoot, he's
No.
open in the wing. He's hitting the 3 9 out of 10 times. So I think in the long run, Joe Ingles was a great pickup, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of people forget that he's on the Bucks just because, again, it's the summer. He's not like some superstar that moved teams, but I think overall it's going to be a huge upgrade for the Bucks, especially losing PJ Tucker from last year with that physicality. I think so. I'm hoping that pans out how I want it to, especially how the other guys think about him too,
Yep.
having to play him because he'd always destroy the Bucks. The Jazz would always do that because it would be him hitting 3 after 3.
I
Drive me nuts.
hated playing the Jazz. I just hated it. I
He's
can't.
one of those guys where you hate, but once he's on your team, you like him.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
no,
in a bad way kind of hate, but you hate
yeah.
him because you know he's going to go off on your favorite team.
And you know what? And I don't think we've talked about how much of a willing passer he is too. I think he's going to set up guys like Lopez, Giannis, Middleton for like just wide open shots because
Yeah.
he could penetrate, he could get in the lane. Um, Especially Giannis. I think Drew Holiday is very good at obviously setting up Giannis, but Joe Ingles, I think he could be one of those guys that has high assist numbers for the Bucks.
Yeah, especially having more than one of those kind of passers. And again, an underrated passer. Obviously, Drew Holiday being the point guard, but if you can get 2 or 3 of those guys who can find Giannis open or find Chris
Yeah.
open in the corner, I think it's going to be hard for a lot of teams to pick up on that.
Yeah, and I bring up free agency kind of jokingly because the Bucks weren't really that active. Like
No.
they just re-signed a bunch of their guys.
Yep. Re-signed Bobby and Pat, brought him back, which is good. But yeah, nothing big.
Which I guess we're to the point now where it's like we don't really need to be active in
No.
free agency because it's like who else do we need? Like Giannis has a good team around him. He makes the playoffs every year. There's nothing much that the Bucks like. We already added another star.
Yeah.
Like it's not like we're a star away from winning the championship. I just think we have a lot of quality core guys that John Horst has been doing a great job of keeping together. Yeah, as you mentioned, Pat Connaughton came back. Bobby came back. Serge Ibaka was the one I was kind of surprised about. I did not expect him back at all.
Yeah, I didn't either. It's not a bad one, but it's not like a great one. It's just one of those where it's if they see potential in him, I hope he has a better year because they got him partially through last season. And again, when you think of
Yeah.
Serge Ibaka, you think the Raptors guy who would block every single shot, but he wasn't like his Raptor self. So I hope there's some oomph left in him who can be somewhat of a threat. But again, not a bad second or third rotation kind of guy if you need him to come in for defense or some shots around the paint. But again, not a bad extension, I would say overall.
No, and I was reading he was dealing with back issues. I don't think it was necessary with the Bucks, but like
Yep.
especially like once he came over to the Clippers, he was dealing with like a lot of back issues and stuff like that. So, and I think during the pandemic, I think after the season was over, he had back surgery, which I think in a lot of athletes can like hamper you and take out your
It takes a lot of
you take
confidence out of you,
yeah.
especially in a physical sport like basketball where you're getting hit in the back all the time, especially in his position. So it's completely understandable.
Yeah, and I mean, we just didn't see him. Like right after Brook Lopez came back, he was like,
Yeah, he vanished. He got the Nasus type minutes or a couple minutes a game where he's kind of doing his thing, or you got the games where he does play for a while. So
yeah.
it's a hit or miss with him, I guess.
But I think thinking about it, by and large, we're gonna need him because I like Bobby Portis.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not comfortable with Bobby Portis being our backup center.
No, he's not a center build. Not at all.
No, he's not. He's not a center build. He's great on offense. Okay, and I think he could be. I think he's really tenacious on defense. It's just when you play teams like, Brook Lopez goes out, and when you play teams like the 76ers.
Yeah, if you put him on Embiid, he's getting babied to the
Yes.
basket every possession.
And even if you move over to like the Western Conference, you put him on Jokic
Yep.
or
Now you got the
Gobert,
76ers, the Timberwolves with Gobert and Karl Anthony
that's
Towns. What either one of them is gonna be just nudged to the rim. It's
that's not.
just
No, it's a Bucks podcast, but I'm just gonna say this right now: the Timberwolves team is not fair. It's not a fair team.
it's I'm curious
Spacing's
of how it's
messed up
gonna
a little
work.
bit,
Yep.
but mm,
Yeah, overall surge, good extension.
yeah,
Pat, great extension. He got really hot at the end of the year, and I think if he can get off the bench, like, because he'll have games where he'll hit 24, 25
yeah,
points, like 4 or 5 threes, or he has games where he gets 8 points and a couple turnovers. So again, he's one of those hit or miss guys, but I think over the season and just being on the Bucks in general,
hmm
he is that guy. John Horst obviously sees a lot in him, so I'm excited for him to be back too.
Speaking of guys who are coming back, Wesley Matthews
Mm.
signed him. So the Bucks signed him last December.
Yep.
A really, really late pickup. I forgot if you could, Evan, if you could let me know who got somebody got hurt. I think in December. I don't know if it was just a random signing or because I thought someone got hurt, but I'm kind of blanking on who.
Um, I know. I think it might have been. Was Grayson Allen out? There was someone who was out where he had to step up a little bit.
Mm,
No, I think it was George Hill.
George
Because
Hill.
George Hill, it was one of those
Yeah.
backup guard guys who was
Yeah.
out and Wesley Matthews was playing. And don't get me wrong, he started out really well. But
Yeah.
then when it came to the end of the season and the playoffs, my goodness, I couldn't watch anymore. Like the Christmas game, I went with my brother and he
That
hit
was a
that game
great
winning
game for you.
three. Amazing game. He came, he was clutch at the end, but then it just
Ugh.
kind of fell off. But
Yeah.
again, an interesting pickup, but whatever John Horst sees. Just the only confusing part I think is that it was a 2-year deal.
Mm.
Um, so we'll see how that goes. Again, another cheap one, but still kind of interesting.
It's interesting because I think the Bucks like his versatility. Like I think when they first signed him in 2019, he was
Mhm.
guarding the other team's best wing player. And I think I don't know if I'd say I do that. He did that well because when I watched the Bucks during the in the bubble, which
Mhm.
again I don't put a lot of stock into,
Yeah, that was
Jimmy
rough.
Jimmy Butler was torching him. Like
Yeah, when you have
Jimmy
TJ
Butler had
Warren.
he had an insane series against the Bucks,
Yep.
but I don't know. I think they like his versatility, I guess, but uh, he did not shoot the ball well from three at all last year.
No.
Like they could, like other teams could just leave him open, and it was just like I was getting mad because when you watch a team right and you see like just a guy just throwing up brick after brick after brick, you're like,
Stop shooting. Like that's
just
the
make
point
one,
where it's you understand that you're not on your game today, so just stop.
just
It's
make one.
even if you
Um,
yeah, it's one of those things where it's all right, you got to find something else to do instead of just throwing them up because going 2 for 9 is not going to help us, especially when you lose by like 6 points and you realize all the wasted possessions from those threes. Yeah, it's one of those things where it was hard to watch, but when he's hot again, he's hot.
yeah, yeah, and again, and we watched that Christmas Day game. That was like that was like that was a really good game for him.
Hmm.
Start of the season, I mean, Celtics were up big, and Bucks able to come back
Yeah, it
and
was like a 20 some point comeback.
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Great live game to see.
Yeah. Well, Joe, they re-signed George Hill, right? Like I know they re-signed him, but I don't know if it was in the free agency period.
Um, did they? I don't know if they re-signed him or not because I know he's still like that lurker where we know he's going to be on the team, but he could be in trade talks because I know they were trying to trade him with um picks or someone else for Jordan Clarkson, but the Jazz did not want him again. So I think he's at the point where he's just been in trade talks for Jordan Clarkson, which got turned down. But now Jay Crowder has kind of sprung up now that it looks like the Suns are going to trade him. So I think he's at the point where he's going to be on the team if they don't trade him.
Yeah, I don't think they signed him to a new contract. Wait, they might have signed him to a 2-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It's still listed he's on the team.
Yep.
Um, I don't know about that one. Uh, I
Oh.
I like I like George Hill. I think when he first came to the Bucks, he was a great backup point guard. He was healthy. You know, George Hill has done a lot for the Bucks. Okay, he did.
Yes.
He did. Well, let's get this out of the way. I think people seem to forget that he did help lead the Black Lives Matter protests.
He was
In
one of the
Milwaukee.
top 3-point shooters that season. Like,
Yes.
first place for a while at that point. But looks like, yeah, he's on a 2-year, $8 million right now.
Okay. He
Yeah,
was
2020
injured
draft.
most of the season last year,
Mhm.
which obviously sucks. But
Because then you got Javon Carter.
I like Javon Carter.
And then he was defense insane. That's why they got him, because George Hill's a pretty good defender, in my opinion.
Well, yeah.
I'll give him that. But then George Hill came back, and then Javon Carter just vanished, where he would get 3 or 4 minutes, or the Bucks are up 30 or down 30 in the fourth, and he's playing. So it's an unfortunate thing. But again, it's Javon Carter. Ironically, he looks old, but he's like 26 years old.
Yeah.
So he's, again, one of those young guys where I guess whatever Budenholzer wants, George Hill over him. But
I'm trying to think about it, and the only thing I could really rationally come up with is maybe Budenholzer didn't trust Javon Carter to run the offense.
yes, and
Like which is, I guess,
yeah,
it's a fair point, because what's the first thing that people say about Javon Carter? He plays tenacious defense and can knock down
hmm
open threes.
yep,
I don't think any Bucks fans saying like, "Oh, Javon Carter is like a true point guard who can like run the offense."
because he's not. That's not his role, and
That's
I
not his.
think he knows that. But it was one of those unfortunate things where he's playing so well after just the Nets dropped him and the Bucks picked him up, played well, especially against the Nets, like right away, and then he just again disappeared. So it's one of those things where he knows his role, and at that point in the season, his role wasn't essentially needed, which
Yeah.
is they weren't down 2 guards, they had everyone back. So again, I'm excited to see how he does, because he is playing right now in the preseason. He was the player of the game uh, yesterday for the Hawks. I think he had like 18 points. So again, he can score. It's just how are they going to use him?
Excuse me. Yeah, yeah, because he scored what 18 against the Hawks.
Yep.
Yeah, 18. Um, yeah, preseason basketball is on right now, but it's tough to watch preseason basketball. Like not only like actually watching, but like it's not even on. It's not usually on TV.
No. And I got the league pass too. I haven't been able to watch any of the games, but yeah, he 17. It was 17 points, 5 threes, and 3 assists. So a solid game overall from him. Again, it was against the Hawks. They didn't win, but it's competitive NBA basketball. 5 threes in a game is a pretty good
Solid,
game overall.
solid. All right. Let's see. Trying to think. All right. So there's no more free agency signings, but let's talk about our first round draft pick, Marjan Beauchamp. A lot of hype around him, Evan. A
Yep.
lot of hype around him.
I think the overall great, first of all, a steal of a pick at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
Again, it's not your Paolo, it's not your Chet, but it's a guy who has Ignite experience. He's played against other NBA players,
Yep.
and a humble guy. I think he understands that he has kind of that chip on his shoulder. He knows that he has to like really show who he is as a player in order to get that respect. I think from some of the higher rookies or
Hmm.
all the analysts who will just pick like your top 3 picks for being the rookie of the year. Then
Yes,
you
I
got
mean,
Brogdon in the past, but I think with the season he's had in the past with the Ignite and the kind of the bouncing around and how humble he is, I think he is going to really show a lot of these guys that that was one of the top picks in the draft. Again, we all wanted to win Rookie of the Year. Will it happen? Who knows? But I think a top 10 finish, I think, would be a huge plus, I think, for him mentally and confidence, I think, going into his sophomore junior season. So I'm kind of pushing for him to be a top 10 Rookie of the Year candidate. I think that would be a solid season for him. But I'm excited to watch him. He's bursts of energy, super explosive. I think him and Giannis on the court could be a deadly duo.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you do. He's been through a lot. He hasn't stayed at one high school throughout 4 years. He didn't stay at one high school throughout 4 years.
Yep.
Mostly playing the G League Ignite, put up pretty solid numbers there. I'm just worried about how many games he's actually going to play.
I am too, and I think that's going to be his putback. But it's also one of those things where it's like you watch the behind the scenes of their picks, and it looked like Budenholzer was excited for him to be there.
Mhm.
He's been playing a lot in the preseason. I've seen a couple of his highlights. Again, haven't been able to watch any of the games yet, but
Yeah,
I think overall, I think he'll see more minutes than we expect, but not as much as we want.
kind of like Giannis in 2013.
Yeah. When he
Like,
was in, he was playing well, essentially.
yeah, yeah. Again, I'm kind of the same boat you are. I haven't been watching any of the preseason games. Um, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I've ever watched an NBA preseason game front
I've
to
seen a
back.
few, but
You've
they're in
seen
Dubai right now. They're playing at like 11 in the morning. Like I'm at
that's
work.
yeah.
I
I
can't even
can't.
watch those.
Yeah, I can't say I can't watch that. It's like, um, and is Giannis even playing in any of those games?
Yes, but not a lot.
Uh,
He's getting some time. I saw he had a highlight dunk yesterday, which was pretty nice. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things where you play 10, 15 minutes and then take a seat. It's the getting the loose feeling, you know.
yeah.
He played in the Euro League, got hurt, very small injuries, but it's just get him loose so he's not rusty, I guess, for the opening game. So acceptable. I'm glad they're playing him a little bit, but you don't need to play him 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, I hope. Well, no, because Mike Budenholzer, he's pretty conservative with
Yep,
with
very.
with the star players' minutes. I remember back to the pandemic where he was like, "Well," and this is where I was on the boat to fire Mike Budenholzer.
Yeah.
I'll admit I did jump on that boat.
I did as well. Winning the
Where
championship saved his career.
yeah, it did. But when he was like, "Well, Giannis and Chris can't play more than 35 minutes," I was like, "Oh,
Yep, they
he's being
can.
fired." Let's see. Oh, who's your X factor? Who's your X factor for the Bucks going to be this season?
I think we have like the big players, obviously like our big three. I think if Brook Lopez can come back, obviously him being a starter, but missing a huge chunk of the season, if he can come back strong. But if we're going bench guys, I think I'm gonna go Nuora or I'm gonna go Pat. I think
Ooh.
Pat's gonna be really solid this year.
Yeah, yeah. Those are good choices. I'm gonna go BP.
Okay.
Um, I don't even know if that's an X factor because like he's been really good for the Bucks past 2 seasons, but I'm gonna consider him an X factor because he comes off the bench,
Hmm.
gives us instant energy. Fans love him. When we get the chance, Bobby, Bob, like
Oh,
they love him.
it's the best energy.
It is,
And but yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a big role player, you know. He
and
was Bulls, Knicks, and no one wanted him. We'll take him. I remember when they signed him, I was very hesitant because I knew he sucker punched one of his teammates and got
that was a
suspended.
good one.
I was like, great, this guy's on our team, and then completely different guy. So I'll definitely agree with you on that one for Bobby.
Well, I'm just gonna be fair here. You know, a lot of Bucks fans wanted to punch Nikola Mirotic in the face after the
Yeah.
2019 playoffs.
Well, then he was on the Bucks too, and he wasn't that
Uh,
good.
and he wasn't that good,
Nope.
but he could not make a wide open three to save his life. So you know what? I was in Bobby Portis's boat. I'm not a violent guy, but I'm just saying
I understand.
he could have made a wide open three.
Yep.
That's all I'm gonna say. Um,
Where do you have the Bucks in the rankings this year? End of the season before the playoffs. I got them at third. I got them behind the Celtics and the Heat. I have the Heat at 1. I don't think that's going to happen. I forgot they lost PJ Tucker, but the Heat always can somehow get that first place seed again with Spoelstra. And the Bucks, again, you have some of those games where you're not playing your starters. I got the Bucks at third, though. I think they're going to be top four no matter what. It's going to be Heat, Celtics, 76ers, and Bucks, I think, top four.
Yeah, so here's what I'm going to go with. I'm actually going to go 76ers first.
Okay.
Because James Harden did drop 30 pounds this offseason. And,
True.
James Harden, he loves nothing more than putting up massive regular season stats.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said he feels healthy. He's been hampered by hamstring injuries the past 2 years.
Yep.
I think James Harden is going to show everyone that, hey, I'm still here. I'm going to also go Heat only because of the fact that I still like the makeup of the Heat. I still like Kyle Lowry. I still like Jimmy Butler. They still got Bam. Like, they still got those core guys there.
Yeah, they re-signed Tyler Hero to a huge 5-year, I think $160 million deal for a bench player, which is insane. So maybe he's going to start after getting 6-man. But yeah, I think the Heat will still somehow pull out a top 3.
6-man, you got that bag.
Yep, which is respectable. X factors though, I have the Cavs now with Donovan Mitchell. I think if they're gonna do well, I think they're gonna be a Bulls team where they did really well in the regular season and then kind of fall in the playoffs, which is again an understandable thing. But I got them at 5, Nets at 6, Bulls 7, Hawks 8. I think your typical top 8, I think in the East are those ones.
Yeah, I mean, hang on. What do I want to go for 3? For some reason, I'm tempted to pick the Nets. I don't know why, but I just feel like a lot of people are sleeping on the Nets.
Well, if Ben Simmons is back, he's been playing in the preseason, so he kind of figured out maybe I should play in the NBA again.
It's a good sign.
Yep.
I'm gonna go Bucks 3 and Celtics 4 because
Okay.
I still believe the Celtics are gonna be. I don't think they're gonna be as good last year because look, I think with the
and their coach is out.
With the unfortunate thing with the coach being out
and Robert Williams being out for
and
8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, I think.
And Danilo Gallinari, that's just a lot for a team.
Yep. They added Brogdon, but again, he's always hurt too. And Blake Griffin, who's always hurt too. But I think they'll still be well. They'll do well.
I think they're expecting Blake Griffin to be like an end of the bench guy. Like, I don't know. Like
he didn't play on the Nets. Now they'll figure out something with him, I think.
Man, for the Nets, real quick, I did not understand the makeup of that roster. It's like, it was just like, Kyrie, Ben Simmons, and Kevin Durant. Then you get Patty Mills and Joe Harris is out. Then I want to get a couple old guys. I want to get LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin. And then I'm like, what?
What is that going to do?
The team wasn't good. So yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, Bucks 3, Celtics 4. Oh Jesus.
Yeah, I would say like my top 3 and
I'll put Cavs 5.
Okay. I got them at 5. I think Cavs, Nets, and Bulls are going to be close, and I think Heat, Celtics, Bucks are going to be close with the 76ers kind of bouncing in and out, or the Celtics bouncing in and out. But then you got Toronto, Charlotte, the Pistons. I really want them to do well.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because
or they could get a play-in but not win.
Yeah, exactly.
I have them at 11, and I think 11 is respectable. I think for them.
By the way, if we're talking about like teams that are always in the play-in, the Hornets.
Yes.
Hornets.
Sorry, you go.
They're not good. They're not bad, but they're not good.
No, they're a very mid team. I think LaMelo has already reached his height. I think it's one of those things where like it's so hard to like see like him break out like Giannis did or like Luka did or some of those guys who just like grew out of nowhere. But again, he's a great player, but now you have lost Bridges. You lost some of those role players. So again, I don't think they're going to make it, which is unfortunate because they're a good team, but I don't know they're going to be a play-in and they're going to lose or they're just not going to make it.
Yeah, for me, I just thought their head coaching search was pretty lazy. Oh, well, why don't we just go back to like I never understand why organizations rehire a coach who they've already kind of parted ways with.
Yep.
I just don't understand why they just don't get new blood in there. It's like, look, I'm sure Steve Clifford is a solid NBA coach, but like you already kind of let him go. So like
Mhm.
I just never understood like, oh, we're gonna we're gonna rehire him. It's like what is that gonna do? I I didn't understand that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where they're gonna keep losing if they keep them. Same for a lot of those other bottom teams where you're either not gonna win or you have the potential, but someone is holding you back. Like the Knicks. The Knicks went from making the playoffs to I got them at 13, Pacers 14, Magic 15. It yeah, it's one of those things where you got some decent players, but you're not going anywhere, unfortunately. Wizards, though, I'm excited though for Johnny Davis. I'm excited to see him, ex Badger,
Yeah,
but I don't have him going to the playoffs though.
yeah. I mean, now that you kind of bring that up, I have the Raptors replacing the Bulls in the playoffs. I think the Bulls are going to take a step back,
Okay.
and I don't. And the reason why I say that is because they're not a they're they're not a better team like without Lonzo Ball.
No, and I hate that he is still hurt.
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't I don't like the Bulls, but I like him, and it's an unfortunate situation. But Zach Levine is not a guy who's going to win you a championship. He
Mm.
is a Chris Middleton, but the top guy. You need a bigger named player to be by him.
Yeah, and look, Lonzo's still hurt. Like, and look, I've just imagined how that team was last year against the Bucks. Like,
They had the
gentlemen
one game,
55.
but then they got demolished. Even when they were the home team for games 3 and 4, absolutely destroyed. So it's something's got to switch in that rotation. Vucevic, is he the guy? Do you get someone younger? Is Zach Levine, now that you signed him for I think another 5 years, is he that guy? DeMar DeRozan's getting older. I don't know. It's weird.
It,
But I like that take though with Toronto.
yeah, because like, well, first of all, Toronto, Toronto just they just always beat the Bucks, and
They do, and
I'm tired of
so
losing
annoying.
Toronto. The Toronto swept us last year. Like nobody
Yeah,
realized it. 4 games. They swept us 4 games in the
Scotty
regular
Barnes.
series.
Scotty Barnes is doing well. Norman Powell. Oh no, he's not on the team anymore. Fred VanVleet, I mean,
Yeah,
as their starter
Norman
is.
Powell is another one of those guys. Always killed it.
Yeah. Now he's gone. Now he's on the Blazers.
No,
But
but
yeah.
last year I think it was more Siakam.
Yep.
It
Spicy
was
P.
Siakam.
It's the NBA
Easy.
champion. Can't hate. But yeah, I agree. And then Pacers, no, not
No,
going
they're not
anywhere.
gonna be good. They're not gonna be good. If you're trying to trade for Russell Westbrook, yeah,
Mm-hmm. They will be good. Let Tyrese Halliburton grow. Miles Turner is still young enough. Buddy
I
Hield is getting older, but Tyrese Halliburton, I think, was a steal of a trade
I don't know how he's still on the team. How is Miles Turner still on the team? He's been in trade talks for the
for
Pacers
years.
for years, and they haven't. Nobody. I don't think anybody wants Miles Turner.
He's the
I don't know.
Josh Hader of the MLB.
Oh,
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like trade him or keep him. Don't like trickle the water with him. Like do it or just sign him.
well, they sent poor Demontis Sabonis to Sacramento.
Yeah.
It's just,
Sacramento. What a dumpster fire.
but it's weird. It's like they're picking up young talent. They just can't
They don't
like
keep him.
they don't keep them, and they can never get their coach right. That's the
No.
other problem too. They fire their coach every 2 years.
Yeah, now they got one of the ex Warriors
Yeah,
coaches.
Mike Brown. I'm like
Yep.
we've seen what Mike Brown is. Like he wasn't. He's not a bad coach, but he's not like a championship level coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had the first incarnation of LeBron, um, and then he got fired, and then they rehired him, and then he got fired again by the Cavs after 1 year.
Yep.
Now he's coaching Sacramento.
So we'll see how it goes.
Uh,
No
yeah,
high expectations.
All right. Before we end this podcast, official prediction of how the Bucks are going to do this season.
I think they're going to get, I want to say, at least 55 wins.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty bold prediction. Again, we can't tell with injuries or losing streaks or down years for some players, but I say top 3. Bias, I hope they win it all.
Yeah.
But if they don't, I think they can at least make it back to the conference finals, healthy or not. I think it's a bold prediction.
All right. I'm going to go 5 less. I'm going to go 50 wins.
Okay.
Only because of the fact that now at this point, it just feels like they're in the regular season. It just feels like they're going to be trying a lot of new different things.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading about the fact that they're trying to defend better from 3. I don't know how they're gonna because I was reading about some of the stuff like they always had Brook Lopez in the dunker position
Mm-hmm.
to kind of prevent like floaters and like shots like that to come in the paint. But the problem is they would always give up like a crap ton of threes, and that's what cost them last year against the Celtics. So I think there's going to be a lot of just like trying new things,
Sure.
experimenting. So I'm gonna go 50.
I almost said 50. I'll take 50 to 55. I don't think they're gonna hit
Yeah,
over 55, but I'll take that 5-game range. I think that's a
and
respectable amount.
um, NBA championship, hopefully. But I'm kind of with you. I hope,
Yeah,
hope, hope,
we're
hope.
biased. I think most people would be, but they're not like the Pistons. We're like, yep, Pistons are winning it all. I'm a Pistons fan. They have a respectable amount of talent to win a championship. The
Yeah,
Bucks.
and like there was just a recent poll that came out that
Yep, where
surveyed
they're the
like all the
favorites.
GMs that
Yep.
said the Bucks is like expected to win the NBA championship. Now, I don't put a lot of stock in those preseason rankings
Yeah.
because everybody thought the Lakers were going to be good last year, and like look how that turned out. Um, but yeah, but because I think they're thinking about it from the standpoint of who's really gonna contend with the Bucks. The only team I can really think of is the 76ers.
Yeah. I think in the long run, they're going to be their toughest challenge because you got Embiid. I think the Bucks could overtake the Heat. They don't do well with them in the regular season, but come playoffs, I think they do a lot better because of their experience. Again, the Heat have the 2020 Finals experience, but that experience is so much different. But I think the Celtics will be or the 76ers will be their biggest threat.
Yeah. Evan, anything else?
I think I'm ready for the season to start.
I am too. All right, so this podcast will record weekends. We'll just say Friday. We're going to consider a Friday a weekend,
Mm-hmm.
Friday or Saturday. Um, we don't really have a set time here. We're just gonna kind of go with the flow here.
Yep.
Whatever works with our schedules and stuff like that. So, Evan, thank you, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thank you.